Hello again. Yes, well, it appears that the Labour MP Catherine West, that had threatened a leadership challenge to Keir Starmer, has backed down. Let's check this out straight away. It's a short little video.
Prime Minister has vowed to prove his doubters wrong in a major speech aimed at averting a potential leadership challenge following a bruising set of local election results. The PM described Friday's results as tough but issued a warning to his party, saying Britain was not just facing dangerous times but dangerous opponents. Labour MP Catherine West backed down from her leadership challenge but said it was too little too late for Sir Keir Starmer and called for him to set a timetable to elect a new leader. Our political correspondent Louisa James is in Downing Street. Louisa, how's his speech gone down?
Well, one of the questions was how it was going to go down with one MP in particular, Catherine West, who, yes, was threatening to trigger a leadership contest if she wasn't.
I think she called on other MPs to jump on the bandwagon with her, and I don't think none did, and this is why she's backed down.
Happy with what she heard from the Prime Minister. Well, she is sort of half back.
There are people that are interested in it, but I think they know as well as anyone that now is not the time. Like I said before, if we're going to change Keir Starmer to someone else, let's do it right.
Down from that, but she is still saying that she is going to gather the names of MPs, calling on the Prime Minister to set out a timetable for his departure with a new leader in place in September. Well, the Prime Minister was clear in his speech that he is not going anywhere because he says the country would never forgive him for that.
Country don't forgive you anyway.
I take responsibility for navigating us through a world that is more dangerous than at any time in my life. And I take responsibility for not walking away, not plunging our country into chaos as the Tories did time and again, chaos that did lasting damage to this country.
Well, the Prime Minister also said that he would prove his doubters wrong with 3 new promises: closer ties with the EU, nationalising British steel with new legislation on Wednesday, and better opportunities for young people. He also returned to one of his favourite themes, which is better chances for people like him from a working class background. But even since he made that speech, 3 new MPs, by my last count, have called for him to go.
There was another speech earlier today as well from Angela Rayner. What did she say?
Well, she is not one of those calling for the Prime Minister to go, at least not at the moment, but there was plenty of criticism still, saying that things need to change, and she called out the Prime Minister for one specific mistake, as she sees it.
We, as a party, have to do better than this. And we can only prove we mean our Labour values by putting the common interest ahead of factionalism. And we can start by accepting that Andy Burnham should never have been blocked. It was a mistake that the leadership of our party should put right.
Yeah.
Well, that is significant because Andy Burnham, as well as Angela Rayner, are 2 of the contenders for that leadership if a challenge should be made, along with Wes Streeting. Keir Starmer's now made...
They're the only 2 people I would accept to take over at the moment. Anyone else, I think, is a liability. Please don't let it be Wes Streeting. I doubt he will anyway because of the Mandelson stuff and that, and his links to him. But yeah, as long as it's either Rayner or Burnham, preferably Burnham over Rayner, I think.
His position clear. The next question is who, if anyone, is going to make the next move?
Louisa James, thank you very much. The Labour MP Catherine West has said that the Prime Minister's speech was good but doesn't outweigh the results of the local election. She says she's contacting MPs today to call on Sir Keir Starmer to set a timetable for electing a new leader in September. Let's get more on this now from our political editor, Robert Peston. So she's backed down, as Louisa was saying, from her own leadership challenge. But does that mean that there's no trouble ahead for Sir Keir Starmer? Where are we at this lunchtime?
Well, look, she's back down for now. What we're going to have to now see is how many MPs, either directly to her or as we have been seeing with their own announcements, start to, well, continue to say that he has to stand down and, indeed, in her words, set a timetable for that. And, you know, if we were to get that number above 80, then at that point you can see there are enough MPs to mount a leadership challenge. So his position remains precarious. I was at his speech this morning and I asked him directly, you know, what would be the circumstances in which he would consider stepping down, given that the current circumstances are literally dire. I mean, you know, the worst set of election results the Labour Party has suffered, that was last week on Thursday, in 100 years, right? Terrible. Wow. Results. So much of the blame being heaped on him personally by the voters who spoke to MPs. And then again, I spent all weekend talking to ministers and MPs, and, you know, I couldn't find a single one who would say to me that he was definitely going to stay. And a very large number of them said he has to now try and organise his replacement in a way that isn't chaotic. But when I put all of this to him, he said he's going to fight. That there are literally, at the moment, no circumstances in his head, he was implying, in which he would consider going quietly. Actually, Pippa Crerar of The Guardian, is also on the Peston show, also asked him directly, if somebody challenges you, will you...
If he stays and fights, he's going to let reform get closer and closer to that front door of 10 Downing Street, and you might as well just hand Farage the keys. And you don't want that. No. Nobody in this country wants that. In fact, the world don't want that.
You contest? And he said yes, he would.
Trump.
So it looks both unstable for him and potentially very messy for the Labour Party. And the two things cannot be true, that both, you know, a large number of his MPs want him to go, and yet he is saying there is no way in which he is. So, you know, the thing that he is says more than anything else, he is desperate to avoid, which is a repeat of the kind of chaos that characterised the last Tory government. I mean, 2022, if you remember, there were 3 prime ministers in 1 year. You know, I still fear that is a very real prospect for this government.
Yeah,
that
if he
kind
stays
of leadership
and fights,
chaos.
it will be. No, definitely. If he stays and fights, it will. It will 100% be like that. He does 100%. He has to go. But he has to do it correctly. And I think, like what Rayner said, it was a mistake that they blocked Andy Burnham, and they should let him back in. But how are they going to do that? Who's going to step down to make way for Burnham? That's a discussion they'll have to work out amongst themselves, I guess. But someone might have to take a fall for Burnham to come in. That's the only thing I can think of, unless I'm not sure. Can Starmer even just give him a job in the cabinet or something? Like, I don't know. No idea. The longer Starmer stays in, and I reckon, give it to around September. I think it's good anyway. It pisses off Farage anyway, because Farage thought that after the local elections that Starmer would resign the next day, and that'll be it, and blah. And Farage and Refuck will start fucking popping champagne bottles and shit. No. Let's not give him that satisfaction. But, 100%. Let's do this right. Cool. Thank you. Hit that like and subscribe. Until next time. Peace.